The contents of this broadcast should be considered personal opinion of a non-professional. Seek advice from multiple qualified sources prior to making any retirement or financial decisions. Hey there, welcome to firefighterretire.com. Today we're going to start the process of solving the retirement equation. It's a simple and familiar equation in that your income has to be greater than or equal to your expenses. But your income and expenses change immediately and dramatically the day you retire. And decisions regarding survivor options, paying for health care, purchase and service credits, and a few others will have a significant impact on your financial situation for the rest of your life. For me personally, the key is to slow down, get educated, and deal with the issues one at a time. And in this video series, I'll walk you through the things that I learned and the mathematical process I used as a guide to financially calculate my retirement. It's actually pretty simple, and by the end of the series, I think you'll have a good idea where you are on the retirement spectrum, and hopefully you've learned some ways to put more retirement dollars in your pocket, especially if you have some time before you retire. To that end, for those of you that are still a ways from retiring and think you can wait to start this planning, that's what I thought too, and I can tell you now that I'd be a lot better off if I'd have gone through this process a little earlier. Actually, a lot earlier. So in this video, we're going to do four things. First, we're going to add up all the things that you're not going to have to pay for anymore the day you retire. I think this is kind of fun. Secondly, we're going to figure out the income you'll need in retirement equivalent to what you're making now, or at least make progress towards that number. Thirdly, we'll calculate your estimated retirement benefit. Some of you are already familiar with this from the DRS website. And the fourth thing we'll do is determine the gap between the income you'll need in retirement and your retirement benefit. So here we go. A few years before I retired, I was looking at my pay stub and I started adding up all the expenses and contributions that I wasn't going to have to pay for anymore once I retired. It was a pretty long list. Medicare contributions, retirement contributions, deferred compensation, disability insurance, HRA VIBA, union dues, less income tax, the coffee fund, and then some of you will have MERP, AFLAC, life insurance, and other things I didn't. In my particular case, 28% of my fire department wages were going towards expenses that will simply go away the day I retire with zero impact on my lifestyle. For our purposes today, we're going to call this our go away expense list, and it's the first calculation we're going to do. So in just a minute, we're going to take a break for you to go find a pay stub and make a list of all your go away expenses. But before you get started, we need to address two questions that are going to come up. The first is what to do with your medical insurance deduction. Medical insurance is a huge issue, and we'll be discussing it in a separate video all on its own. But for the purposes of working through this equation today, I'd like you to add the medical insurance deduction on your pay stub to your list of go-away expenses, because you'll be adding in your total monthly medical expense back into the equation later when you have that estimate. If we don't do it this way, the portion of the medical insurance on your pay stub will get counted twice. The second oddball item on your pay stub that you'll need to make adjustments for is income tax. Lower income in retirement will obviously result in paying less taxes, and you'll need to account for that. I just took a third of my withholdings and added that figure to my go-away expense list to account for my income tax reduction. And that may seem oversimplified, but now that I have 2 years of post-retirement tax history, I know it was a good conservative estimate. At some point, you'll need to get a solid handle on your post-retirement tax situation, either with an accountant or by digging into it yourself. But in an effort to move forward with this exercise today, either make your own educated guess or use a third like I did. Here's a copy of the 2019 tax tables for single and married filers if you want to dig into it more. Okay, so at this point, please pause the video, go find a pay stub, make a list of all your go-away expenses and total them up. You should find most of them in the deduction section with the exception of tax withholdings and Medicare. But there seems to be little standardization on pay stubs, and I've had some that were pretty hard to decipher. So you might find it helpful to go back to that slide where I listed them out and use that as a guide. One last thing, this exercise is kind of foundational, and we're going to do a few more calculations today. So if you choose not to participate, I don't think you're going to get much out of this. Sorry. Okay, did you total up all your go-away expenses? Here's my list from a sample pay stub I'm using, and if yours looks something like it, you should be good to go. Personally, I was impressed by this number and felt like it was a little bit of a win because I knew my pension check would be a lot less than my pre-retirement income. And so having some significant expenses and contributions go away with no effect on my lifestyle certainly helped. So the next logical step, and second thing we're going to do today, is figure out how much retirement income we actually need when we don't have to pay for those go-away expenses anymore. To do this, we simply subtract our go-away expenses from our gross income. On my sample pay stub, my gross income is $7,800, and my go-away expenses from the list I just made was $2,105. 7,800 minus 2,105 equals $5,695. So I need an income of $5,695 a month to retire at the same standard of living as pre-retirement when I no longer have to pay for those expenses that are going to go away. We're going to call this our income equivalent number because that's what it is. The dollar amount equivalent to our current gross income minus our go-away expenses. So take a second and do that equation. Now this income equivalent number will be increased by your healthcare costs, but we haven't covered that yet, so unless you already know what that figure is, leave it out for now and you'll add it back in later when you have an estimate. Now I know my monthly retirement benefit is less than my income equivalent number of $5,695, but I need to know how close it is because theoretically, once I can fill that gap between the two, I can retire at the same standard of living as I did pre-retirement. We'll call the difference between our retirement benefit number and our income equivalent number our gap number. The math is super simple if we know our retirement benefit estimate, and figuring that out is our third objective today. If you're close to retirement, then you probably know all about your estimated retirement benefit. But if you aren't, chances are you don't. So if you do, take a break. If you don't, let's go through it. There are two ways to obtain your retirement benefit estimate. The best way is to go to the DRS website and run the benefit estimate calculator. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be familiar with this calculator, the DRS website, and the Left 2 handbook. It's not exactly exciting material, but there's not much to it, and you really need to know it if you want to maximize your retirement options. And for any of you watching this video that aren't in the Left 2 system, you'll obviously have to refer to your own retirement information. In the Left 2 Retirement Handbook, you'll find the retirement benefit equation. This equation is 2% times your years of service credit times your final average salary, or FAS. Your FAS is the average of your 60 consecutive highest paid service credit months, and your service credit years is exactly that, the number of years you've worked. And the only way to get those exact numbers is from the DRS website. So far, you've been using your gross monthly income, as stated on your pay stub, as your final average salary. And that's fine for our purposes today, as long as you understand the difference between the two, and that when you retire, your FAS will be used to determine your benefit. You'll also have to pick a total number of years of service you think you're going to work to do the equation. So go ahead and figure out your retirement benefit estimate, either by taking a break and going to the DRS website and using the calculator, or by using the retirement benefit equation, 0.02 times years of service times FAS. Okay, you should now have your retirement benefit estimate. In my example, for a 30-year employee, 0.02 times 30 times 7,800 equals $4,680 and is my retirement benefit estimate. Keep in mind that your retirement benefit estimate will be decreased by your survivor option choice, and we haven't covered that yet. So unless you already know which survivor option you're selecting, leave it out for now, and you'll add it back in later. Now that we know our benefit estimate, we can return to where we were a few minutes ago and figure out our gap number, the difference between our benefit estimate and our income equivalent number. So go ahead and subtract your benefit estimate number from your income equivalent number to obtain your gap number. Got it? In my example, my income equivalent number of $5,695 minus my benefit estimate of $4,680 equals $1,015 and is my gap number. To clarify, there's a $1,015 a month gap between my retirement benefit and my income equivalent. So income equivalent up here, the amount of income I'll need to retire, retirement benefit down here, what our pension will provide, gap number, the difference between the two. Okay, so in order to have the same spending power post-retirement as I do pre-retirement, I need to fill the gap of $1,115. If I want even more spending power in retirement, then I simply need to exceed that gap number. In the next video, we'll discuss strategies to fill that gap, but we're going to wrap it up for today. So in review, we calculated our go-away expense, our income equivalent number, our retirement benefit estimate, and our gap number. And I know my made-up terms are kind of corny, but I don't know how else to explain it, and I'm hoping the figures are helpful to use as a baseline. In videos 3 and 4, we'll cover survivor options and healthcare, so you can add those factors back in like we discussed earlier, and you should fine-tune all your numbers as you get closer to retirement and have better information. In video 2, the next video, we'll do a review. We'll talk about possible funding sources and strategies to fund that gap number, and we'll talk about some other retirement considerations you need to keep in mind. This is Steve at firefighterretire.com. Check out the next video and you'll have a chance. Take care and retire well.